So often when we look at business data, we just see this intimidating wall of numbers, right? Spreadsheets that feel completely divorced from actual human behavior. But let's be real. Behind those numbers are some incredible stories of survival, strategy, and success. So today, let's dive right into this explainer by looking at a real-world business mystery through the lens of demand estimation analytics. We aren't just brushing up on managerial economics here. We are taking those concepts and applying them directly to a high-stakes scenario that plays out in the real world every single day.
Picture this for a second. Imagine Stella. She's a super passionate small business owner running Stella's Starlight Roller Rink. But lately, she's staring out at a rink floor that is sitting at a 50% vacancy rate. The disco lights are spinning, the music is absolutely bumping, but crickets. The skaters just aren't there. Her cash flow problems are mounting, and she's frantically wondering what went wrong. Did she jack up the prices too high? Are people just over roller skating? Or is there some hidden variable she's completely missing? She has to figure this out, and fast, before those doors close for good.
To save her business, Stella needs a massive perspective shift. She has to evolve from looking at a basic two-dimensional demand curve, which only cares about price, to a multi-dimensional demand function. Think of this function like a giant sound mixing board at a concert. You can't just adjust the main volume dial, which is price, and expect a perfect mix. You have to simultaneously adjust the bass, the treble, the mids, or in a business sense, local income levels, how much you're spending on advertising, and how far away your core customers are. It's all happening at the exact same time.
Now, when we look at just a standard demand curve, we're basically playing a game of pretend. We're pretending that all those other sliders on our mixing board are taped firmly in place. Economists love to call this holding everything else equal, or ceteris paribus. It's like assuming that if you run a coffee shop and raise the price of a latte, literally nothing else in the world changes. Nobody loses their job, no new competitor opens across the street. But come on, we all know business absolutely does not happen in a vacuum.
Because the real world is messy and constantly moving, Stella needs to bring out the big guns: regression analysis. This is the statistical magic that untangles how all those moving parts actually affect her ticket sales. As you probably know, regression lets us take a mountain of historical data and isolate the exact impact of each individual factor. It answers the crucial question: if we push just one specific slider on that mixing board, what exactly happens out there on the rink floor?
Let's translate the academic math into plain English right here. Stella's total tickets sold equals a baseline intercept number, plus the impact of her pricing, plus the impact of her ad spending, plus the effect of her distance from the local college. Oh, and plus something represented by the Greek letter epsilon. That's the chaos factor. The completely unpredictable, random shocks of the universe, like a sudden thunderstorm that drives everyone indoors to skate instead of going to the park.
Of course, to make this work, estimation requires hard data, so Stella digs into her records from the past year. What does she find? An average of about 53 skaters per session. Her premium party package runs about $420 on average. She's tossing about $20.50 a day at TikTok ads, and her rink happens to be located an average of 5.7 miles from the main local college campus, which is her absolute target demographic.
Okay, so what's really fascinating about this next step is how she approaches the modeling. She takes all those averages, along with literally every single daily data point she's collected, and feeds them into her regression software using the least squared method. She's essentially grabbing the data by the collar and asking, out of all this noise, what is actually putting roller skates on feet? The software crunches the numbers and spits out a price coefficient of negative 0.14. Okay, so what does that actually mean for a small business owner? It means that for every single dollar Stella raises her party package price, she loses a fraction of a skater, specifically 0.14 of a skater. Assuming everything else stays completely constant, price definitely matters. When the price goes up, demand definitively goes down.
But honestly, here is the real shocker for Stella: a distance coefficient of negative 5.78. That is massive. This means that for every extra mile a potential customer lives away from the college campus, demand drops by nearly 6 whole skaters. It's like an invisible wall around her business. Her core audience is incredibly localized, and that distance is creating massive friction that's just keeping people on the couch.
Wait a second, though. Before Stella completely panics and overhauls her whole business model based on these numbers, she runs a quick sanity check. We all know the golden rule here: checking the p-value to ensure it's less than 0.05. We have to confirm we're looking at statistically significant impacts driving her customer base and not just random noise that's masquerading as a trend.
And wow, the data delivers a pretty harsh reality check. Only her price and the distance from the college are actually statistically significant. What about all the time and money she spent choreographing those trendy TikTok ads? The p-value was way too high. They are totally insignificant to her overall demand. She's basically been taking a pile of cash and setting it on fire every day.
But now, armed with data she can actually trust, Stella tackles her biggest, scariest threat, that cash flow problem. Usually, the fastest way to inject cash into a struggling business is just to raise prices, right? It's a classic panic move. She wonders, what happens to my bottom line if I just hike that premium party package price by a clean $100?
Well, thanks to our price coefficient of negative 0.14, she doesn't have to guess anymore. A $100 increase? Multiply that by negative 0.14 and she will automatically drive away exactly 14 skaters. It is a mathematical certainty. Poof, gone. But here is a literal million-dollar question. Will that higher price point offset the fact that the rink is going to look a lot emptier?
To figure out if that price hike will pad her bank account or drain it, she calculates her price elasticity of demand. Once you have your regression, this formula is beautifully simple. You just multiply your price coefficient by your average price, and then divide the whole thing by your average quantity.
Let's actually run the math for Stella. She plugs in those averages, $420 over about 53 skaters, and multiplies it by her coefficient of negative 0.14. The result? She discovers her elasticity is negative 1.11. Now pay attention here, because this single, highly specific number completely dictates her pricing strategy from this day forward.
Because the absolute magnitude of negative 1.11 is greater than 1. Her demand is what we call elastic. This means her customers are highly sensitive to price tweaks. Think of it like selling generic bottled water. If you charge $10 a bottle, people are just going to go to the vending machine next door. If Stella's rink gets too expensive, her college crowd will easily find somewhere else to hang out on a Friday night.
And this, right here, illustrates the ultimate trap she almost walked blindly into. Because her demand is elastic, jacking up the prices won't save her roller rink. It's actually going to cause her total revenues to plummet. Any extra cash she might squeeze out of the people who do show up will be entirely wiped out by the mass exodus of those 14 lost skaters. Doing the math literally just saved her business from a fatal error.
By transforming a failing business into a concrete math equation, Stella fundamentally changed her trajectory. She cut that useless ad spend immediately, she realized her elastic demand meant she had to stay fiercely price competitive, and she shifted her entire strategy to hyper-local marketing to fight that massive friction of distance. She stopped guessing and she started calculating.
Stella's story proves that demand estimation isn't just something you memorize for a test, it is an absolute lifeline. Look at the question on the screen. What is the estimated demand function? For Stella, finding that answer was everything. So the next time you face a slump in your own business or a project that just isn't gaining traction, ask yourself, are you just blindly tweaking sliders in the dark, or are you ready to find the hidden math and build your own equation? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope you look at the numbers in your own life just a little bit differently today.